Black people aren't really identified by skin color, but by facial features. People aren't that specific on a skin tone of a black person. People are more so paying attention to if someone is racially ambiguous when it comes to race of a person. There are very dark-skinned Indian people who are not assumed to be black, and it's because of their facial features. So it's not dependent on skin tone, it's dependent on how you look, if you look like a black person or if you don't look like a black person. If you don't look like a black person, then you might not be assumed to be black. Facial features make a difference, and that's got nothing to do with skin tone. A lot of black people are in denial about what makes them look black. People have the idea that people are being treated less than because they are darker, which I don't think is really true. If skin tone defined how we were treated, then it wouldn't have to do with race, because there are very dark-skinned Indian people and there are albino black people. To me, it's a delusion, because if you look like a black person or seem like a black person, then you'll be seen as a black person. When we talk about experience, I do think there is a difference if most of the time someone is thought of as black, and if most of the time someone is thought of as Hispanic or Arab or some other ethnicity other than black. When you are a black person who is lighter skinned, or you are mixed race and you have black features, you do not have the stereotypical features set forth, you'll have people up there saying that you're not supposed to have those features. You're not supposed to have type 4 hair, you're not supposed to have fuller features. They'll say, oh, you have black hair, or you have a black nose, that's black, therefore you look black. Black genes are usually mostly dominant, it depends. Everybody's genes are different. You can have siblings, one will look more white, one will look more black, it varies. But you know, the way people talk about it, it's like, oh, you don't have white features, you can't benefit off of white features, you're not better than me type of thing, as if whiteness is better than black people. No, I embrace everything from my non-black features to my black features, which come from my black side. There's beauty in looking unambiguous, and there's beauty in looking ambiguous. If you think that less attractive features on someone are black features because you don't want to associate less attractive features with light skin, I'm not saying that black features are less attractive features, I'm just talking about how people were saying it. It's like, why do you try to associate negativity with dark skin? You know, it shows how you see yourself. And this is the thing with a lot of people who push colorism. You don't want dark skin to be perceived as less than, then why do you keep perceiving it as less than? So yeah, I don't believe that 4C hair, dark-skinned, West African features make you less attractive. The way these people were trying to say, it's like they find that more African features don't meet the black beauty standard. People who are lighter skinned often deal with racism and this kind of anti-blackness, but it's almost like dark-skinned women who are caught up in the idea of colorism don't realize this. So, you know, it's like we are never hated on for our black features. We are never told our features are unattractive. We are never told other features are prettier than black features. It's like, oh no, only dark-skinned people get told that, even though it's very often that dark-skinned people will be trying to tell you how unattractive your black features are, and that's how they're connected to you, and they'll try to prove to you you have African features and how your African features are bad. To me, it's like a lot of you guys are just brainwashed by negativity. They will say society is going to treat you like you're black, like it's a second-class citizen. They put blackness in many negative lights. People never consider all of the negative things black people say about dark skin, about light skin, about biracials. They get a pass on it simply because they are black. That's not how it should be. A self-hating black person should be put in their place as a self-hating person, not try to attack the other person that they're trying to demean. From my perspective, it's like, why do you think I want to be associated with you when all you ever do is try to say, oh, these are the things you have in common with me and makes you look terrible because of this and because of that, which is supposedly an African feature. Things that aren't even African will sometimes be associated with being African just to tie some negative association with it. So, it's like, you attack me for being black, then I'm going to attack you for being black. Not attack you, actually just point out what you attacked me for and show you got it twice as much as me. If you got it twice as much as me, then why would I just ignore that and take the beating? Of course I'm going to beat you with what you're beating me with. It kind of makes sense. But no, I need to be guilty of colorism on some level just because I'm lighter skinned and I'm not colorist against anyone. It seems like it doesn't matter what I think. When you say someone is black on a negative level, it just means you don't like your own blackness, basically. If you are a black person speaking negatively on blackness. So, don't you think it's messed up that black people are being taught that white people are better than black people by other black people? Just because society teaches you that white is better does not mean that you don't have a brain of your own, you don't have a life of your own, you don't have a family of your own. These black people need help. They need therapy. They need to learn to have a good self-esteem around being black, around being dark-skinned, around having Afrocentric features. There will be a dark-skinned black person that will say something negative about being black or having dark skin. And other dark-skinned people will be like, hey, there's colorism. But you don't just keep that to dark-skinned people. If you're talking about colorism, why don't you guys talk about how negatively you see yourself, other dark-skinned, light-skinned, biracial people? You guys have to change your thinking, To me, it's like, you're the one with the problem. You don't understand that you are right for you. Why is it we only have to listen to dark-skinned people who believe in the colorism hierarchy when it could really actually be that they're just mistaking what they're experiencing for colorism when it's actually something totally different? That doesn't mean that whatever they're experiencing isn't negative. It could be racism, sexism, all sorts of different things, classism, but that doesn't mean that it is colorism. I don't think colorism is an issue when it comes to the general population. Now, a dark-skinned black man being self-hating, sure, that exists, but he's not really colorist because, he's colorist to himself as well. How I've heard darker-skinned black men speak about black women, to me that is a form of colorism. It's like racism covered in colorism. But it's more like racism and internalized colorism. It's like a projection. Their issues are internalized. That's why they are dark-skinned and don't like themselves as well. So, manifestations of racism, self-hatred, and colorism with dark-skinned black people against each other is both equally wrong, equally the same result, the same issue. I've seen how dark-skinned black men don't seem to like their own complexion but will act very favorable to mine, so that's the only thing I've experienced. When I hear a dark-skinned black person not liking themselves for being black and acting like lighter is better, I'm like, well, you're offending me because you do understand that I'm half black. So, if you're going to insult anyone, just stick to insulting yourself because no one else was saying they felt less than, you're insulting yourself. That's your own personal problem. But with dark-skinned black men with these issues, it's like, Why do you expect me to be with you? Like, it's supposed to be your only option, you know? I'm biracial. That's half of something else. To me, it's like, leave me alone and figure out why you're self-hating. I don't see someone's self-issues as a boost to me. It's not like, oh, he wants this, he doesn't want that, and I'm hurt by this. I don't care if he wants this or if he doesn't want that. You know, I would prefer him not to prefer me. Why don't you have enough of a self-esteem to point out the people with the low self-esteem as the problem, rather be angry at people who are lighter skinned, who can't help the complexion that they were born with? Many times with colorism, it seems like it is being implemented by dark-skinned people, and is just another way to define how dark skin is bad to them. That should probably be called out more than, say, someone holding up a lighter skinned person over a darker skinned person, because, like I said, you should start from within, because the problem is more from within the dark skinned population than outwardly. Focus on the fact that you guys have an issue with your own skin tone before you look at a person with another complexion and complain to them about anything. Because, I mean, light-skinned people didn't make themselves light-skinned. They're naturally that way. So it's like you are more concerned with someone born light-skinned than someone actively showing you that they think that dark skin is bad. To me, that shows that you don't really care about dark skin being treated as if it's less attractive. What you really care about is that you feel inferior that you are dark skinned. Like, oh, it's a shame what the light skinned people make us go through. You know, you're blaming other people for your own actions and taking no accountability for the way you think of yourself. So it's just a little bit frustrating that people have these conquered mindsets and this lack of self-love for themselves. You know, it doesn't matter what race a person is. There are attractive people and unattractive people. So I don't see race as defining beauty. The majority of people from every background are average, you know. I guess that's a part of why it's deemed average. I find it really sad that a lot of black people have this mindset of you can't recognize your own beauty, so instead you focus on white women, Hispanic women, Indian women, Arab women, and show how beautiful they are, and you are basically bitter and upset about your own phenotype. And then you make it how you basically undermine your own beauty by not focusing on yourself and focusing on everyone else. And then it makes it basically where people undermine your beauty and make it seem like black women are unattractive and are mad about it because you can't embrace yourself. If you could embrace yourself, then we wouldn't need to talk about what other people embrace. It's not that deep, but, you know, you guys go so deep because you have some issues with yourselves and your phenotype, and you need to work that out. Black women, mixed women, you know, need to celebrate themselves and their own beauty. I just want to exist as the individual that I am. I don't view light and dark women differently. I do embrace everything that I have, but I'm able to see the beauty in other people's skin tone and their beauty too. I feel like everyone can be embraced together. But a lot of the time, black people associate black features with something that needs to be fixed. To me, it shows how you feel about yourself and how you feel like something is wrong or broken within you that needs to be fixed. If that's how you feel, you have to look within and ask, why do you feel so bad about yourself? And not focus on what other people have and what features they have and how different they are from you. It's uncomfortable because it's like, why can't you see the beauty that you have without having to complain about white supremacy or trying to compare us to white people? We shouldn't have this struggle. We should be satisfied with ourselves the way that we are without having to look to any other race of people. We should all like who we are at the end of the day. There shouldn't be any problem. Racism never really had to do with skin tone. It had to do with Africa. It had to do with our history, with blackness, with slavery, with the civil rights movement. I just kind of think for light-skinned people, dark-skinned people, biracials, we have to have a good self-esteem on our skin tone and a good opinion on our skin tone. We don't need to be thinking negatively about each other, you know. As for self-esteem, that's a major reason why I prefer my own image, because I prefer the phenotype that I have, and I prefer to have children that look like me. We should have the idea that there's nothing wrong with our phenotype. You know, I think dark-skinned black men should prefer dark-skinned black women because that's your image, so you have that in common. If you want someone to validate your phenotype, validate yourself. People say people benefit from having lighter skinned. I think that's in the idea of dark-skinned black men preferring lighter skinned women. I don't think it's specifically in the sense of the black woman's image. I think the black woman's image is seen as dark, just as the black man's image is seen as dark. When people talk about privilege with light-skinned people, to me it's like, how can you have a privilege when you're not partial to the one giving the privilege? You know, if you don't want to be with black men or don't even have a sense of mediocreness with them. When people talk about privilege, not everyone responds the same way to dark-skinned black men. A lot of people like to think they do because they like to think if they were in my position, that's how they would be. You don't know how I interact with other people or understand how I deal with other people, so you don't know if I get a privilege or not. It's just an assumption basically to shame light-skinned people to feel guilty. There are different types of people and different avenues through a different type of person with different interests. It's like saying there's a tattoo privilege. Some people are into tattoos, some people are not into tattoos. Some people are into dark skin, some people are into light skin, some people are into Hispanic skin, Asian skin, white skin. Do we say that any of this is Hispanic people's privilege or Asian people's privilege or white people's privilege? So why do we always think that just because someone benefited off of their skin tone that it is light skin privilege, when it's just that they benefited off of the cards they were handed? They dealt with the cards they were handed, basically. I don't think anyone has it worse than anyone else. I think we all have different dynamics. People will bring up studies to do with colorism to show that there is colorism. So yeah, I've looked at the studies, I looked at the findings and the method, and to me, yeah, there are different conclusions that can be drawn. When you talk to darker skinned people, they associate darker skin with aggressiveness and masculinity, so they associate those two things together. Then they think it's more acceptable for them to behave in those ways. Basically, kind of animalistic instinct is associated with dark skin. They always act like it's a negative thing for black women and a positive thing for black men. And I feel like when people internalize that and think that they are allowed to, you know, let loose and be more aggressive, it causes a lot of issues because basically they try to excuse really negative behavior. This is another thing that is a problem with colorism because you accept not being able to control yourself to some level. This is another thing with colorism that is a problem because with that kind of thought process, they associate aggressiveness and that kind of behavior where you accept not being able to control yourself to some level. Mostly, I think that people aren't focusing on the fact that if people think they're more aggressive than another person and it's more acceptable for them to be at a level where they're not able to control themselves as much, then they might break the law and be more at a level that is a little more out of control than someone who thinks they can control themselves. That's why when people talk about prison sentencing, darker skinned people getting longer prison sentences. I don't think colorism has to do with sentencing. I think it has to do with the perception of the person committing the offense. So basically, it's not that the judge is hating dark skin. It's that the dark-skinned person basically thinks they're an animal and that they're not able to control themselves. So the judge has to give them a longer sentence. I've heard darker-skinned black men talk about this, where they think that basically being more aggressive, animalistic is, more attractive, and appeal. It makes me uncomfortable, I don't think that people who are attracted to black men are attracted to them because they think that they are animals. When people talk about colorism experiences having to do with jobs and work and things like that, there seems to be no context, and it seems to be based on assumptions. People will talk about someone not getting a job due to skin color or getting fired due to skin color, and I'm just like, are you really sure that's what it is? You're talking about someone having dark skin and then associate it with someone not getting a job. See, this is the problem. You want to associate all negativity with dark skin, and you want to associate everything negative with dark skin. And to me, that's what the problem is. Like, it just gets pulled out of nowhere, If you think negatively on dark-skinned people, would it actually be wrong if you think negatively on dark skin? No, it wouldn't. Then you would think that everything has to do with the color of your skin when you think negatively on your skin tone, even though it may not have to do with your skin tone. I've already seen where people will call certain situations colorist when no one was talking about color. They just brought it up for their own benefit. People make up colorism. They make up situations where there is colorism for their own benefit. That's what you're seeing. If anything, you can say it's in reverse because they will use it against you because they have the skin tone that they have and they have the mentality that they are less than. If the colorism narrative is true, then why is it that dark-skinned people dish out colorism? Dark-skinned people wouldn't be dishing out something that is against themselves. What I think goes on is that dark skin is like a protection, and it makes it where they have, more leeway. Colorism is an issue to them because they feel it on their own self-image and their own self-esteem. If the hierarchy really existed and dark skin was treated the worst, then we would see that dark skin is treated the worst. So, to me, it seems like they want to use colorism as another way to have a tool against other people to kind of like boost themselves up because they don't quite feel equal. And I'm not saying all dark-skinned people do this or feel this way or try to use their skin tone against other people. They should understand how ideal they are for themselves and not that it is a privilege to be lighter, because when you see it as a privilege to be lighter, then what are you viewing yourself to be? Disadvantaged and a letdown to be darker. Why are you viewing your dark skin that way? It's not a healthy way to view dark skin. Believing in light skin privilege does not help dark skinned people. All it means is this is how they view themselves, and they need to stop viewing it that way. Dark-skinned people attacking other dark-skinned people, and they feel colorism, and that's why they attacked other dark-skinned people. I do not hate dark-skinned people. I don't think anything badly about dark-skinned people. I think dark skin is beautiful. I just wish they felt that way. I wish they didn't think there was a way to come up on someone and a way to use something against someone because they are lighter. I'm not saying no dark-skinned people agree with what I'm saying. I'm just talking about the dark-skinned people who act up that way. So basically, black people are allowed to let loose. Black men are allowed to let loose. That's your way of protecting black men in the black community, hoods, or whatever, You like to coddle black men and think black people should be allowed to have more out-of-control behavior because you have a low self-esteem on being black. Otherwise, you would hold black men to a higher standard, and you would hold black people to a higher standard and say that black people need to contain themselves. But, you don't think that because you make excuses for black people and think black people should be held to different standards. Racism is not the main issue of black people in this day and age. It's these kind of internalized issues.